A very good evening and a warm welcome to the Business Roundup on another weekend. We are television bring you as usual another collection of latest happenings and developments in the business arena, easing your decision-making moments. I'm Ashingsani Veerasinghe. Now let's have a look at the headlines for today. Minimum guaranteed price for paddy with a recommended moisture level for the Maha season approved. The new website launched supporting Sri Lankan companies to promote products and services into the global market. European Union stresses that extension of GSP Plus facility is not automatic and reiterates conditions. News in detail. Co-Cabinet spokesman Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena says that the government has taken steps to purchase paddy at a minimum guaranteed price of 50 rupees per kilogram for the Maha season with a recommended moisture level. This and many other key cabinet decisions were announced during the media briefing held last Thursday to announce the cabinet decisions that were taken this week.
Accordingly, the Cabinet of Ministers decided that the government shall facilitate in purchasing surplus of paddy stocks in the Maha season of 2019 to 2020 with objective of encouraging the private sector paddy millers to purchase paddy under a fair price to ensure sustaining a fixed price of paddy. Addressing the weekly cabinet media briefing at auditorium of the Government Information Department, Minister Dr. Gunawardena said the Cabinet of Ministers has approved the purchase of a kilogram of paddy that is up to be accepted quality standards at price of 50 rupees. The paddy will be purchased at a price of 50 rupees per kilo through the Paddy Marketing Board and government agents. Minimum certified price of a kilo of paddy with moisture will be certified as 45 rupees. Thus, the relevant cabinet paper was presented by the Agriculture Minister Chamal Rajpaksha to the Cabinet of Ministers. Meanwhile, the cabinet nod was also given to appoint authorized officers for submission of visa application of tourists arriving and travelling within Sri Lanka via the electronic travel authorization system. The Department of Immigration and Immigration followed the electronic travel authorization system since the year 2012 for issuance of pre-checkup and approval to foreign tourists visit Sri Lanka. Although attraction of a considerable amount of Chinese tourists to Sri Lanka is apparent, those Chinese tourists are not encouraged due to the delays in obtaining visa to visit Sri Lanka as a result of the language barrier resulting from the implementation of electronic travel authorization system only in English at present by Sri Lanka. Thus, as a remedy to these circumstances, it has been observed that these tourists should be facilitated to obtain assistance from private agencies when travelling to Sri Lanka. Accordingly, the proposal submitted by the Minister of Mahavali Agriculture, Irrigation, Rural Development, the Minister of Internal Trade, Food Security and Consumer Welfare and the State Minister of National Defence to obtain the service of travels on international travel services from Shanghai Limited processing experience in a number of countries in catering the need was approved by the Cabinet of Ministers as a policy.
In a bid to transform tourism into a $10 billion worth industry by 2030, a 7-member top-level task force has been appointed. The 7-member task force appointed by Tourism Minister Prasanna Ranatunga has been instructed to submit its recommendations within 2 weeks.
Tourism Minister Prasanna Ranatunga said that the task force was expected to identify problems faced by the tourism industry and offer solutions and implementation guidance on the future development of the sector. The team has also been directed to identify new areas to develop tourism apart from traditional tourist attractions. The 7-member task force is headed by Tourism Ministry Secretary Marina Mohammed, while other members include Sri Lanka Tourism Chairperson Kimali Fernando, Sri Lanka Tourism Promotion Bureau Director General Chandani Verapitia, Sri Lankan Airlines Chairman Ashok Patrage, Airport and Aviation Services Limited, Chairman G.A. Chandrasiri, Tourism Minister, Senior Additional Secretary Development Varuna Samaradivakara, and Tourism Ministry Additional Secretary Administration Deepa Sanasurya. Minister Ranatunga also stated that the ministry will implement a strategic marketing program to promote Sri Lanka tourism within a wide range of countries. The ministry has focused its attention on setting up tourist service centers, sanitary facilities, restaurants and all other essential amenities in line with international standards along the road network connecting major tourist hotspots. The government expects to increase the annual tourist arrival figure to 7 million by 2030 while also making it a $10 billion industry.
Central Bank Governor Professor W.D. Lakshman stresses that productivity-oriented expansion, growth of agricultural and manufacturing with a proper handle of imports and exports are obligatory for the economic takeoff. Professor W.D. Lakshman made these observations as the chief guest at the 61st Annual General Meeting of the National Chamber of Commerce held in Colombo last Tuesday.
Production growth, after all, is necessary, though not sufficient, to enhance and uplift human and social conditions of living. Our achievements in educational, health, and gender parity areas have been particularly impressive, although clearly problems and issues remain. With the collaboration of foreign capital and domestic state capital, private capital could take the country into the next level of growth. Productivity-oriented expansion and growth of agriculture and manufacturing, targeting both import substitution and export promotion, would, we expect, enable Sri Lanka in the next few years to come to achieve its so far elusive economic takeoff. Playing its much-hyped engine of growth role, the private sector, I hope, will work collaboratively with the public sector to achieve national goals.
Speaking further, Central Bank Governor Professor W.D. Lakshman noted that Sri Lanka can make use of the abundance of skilled and semi-skilled labour force to leapfrog the growth. He also emphasized that the infrastructure investments in the war-torn areas has increased the inter-regional connectivity and has opened new markets.
Today, Sri Lanka possesses a large pool of skilled and semi-skilled workforce. In addition, the infrastructure investments of the government in the post-conflict area have tremendously improved inter-regional connectivity within the country. The pervasive telecommunications network is the other significant infrastructural achievement. These investments have not only improved access to existing markets, but have also opened up new market opportunities. Sri Lanka today is well on its way to take its place in the global digital revolution. Against this background, Sri Lanka endeavors to progress beyond the upper middle-income economy level. The country is reorienting its growth strategy, highlighting and supporting the domestic capital and entrepreneurship to help develop a strong national bourgeoisie.
Stay tuned for more news after this short break. Welcome back after the break. Minister of Industry, Export, Investment Promotion, Tourism and Aviation, Prasanna Ranatunga, last week said that the European Union's generalized scheme of preferences plus tax concessions to Sri Lanka will continue until 2023. However, the EU office in Colombo stresses that GSP Plus is not automatic and it is granted only if there is continued and effective implementation of 27 international conventions.
Minister Ranatunga had a meeting with the head of Political, Trade and Communications section of the delegation of the European Union to Sri Lanka and Maldives, Thorsten Bugfred, and EU representatives at the ministry last Sunday. Following this meeting, the Ministry of Industrial Export and Investment Promotion, issuing a statement, said that the European Union has agreed to provide the GSP Plus to Sri Lanka until 2023. The ministry also said that there would be no change to the related observation process. However, pertaining to the issue, former Minister Dr. Harsha De Silva said that there has been no extension to the GSP Plus. Meanwhile, the EU office in Colombo, via a Twitter message, informed that the GSP Plus is not automatic. The Twitter message further pointed out that it is granted only if there is continued and effective implementation of 27 international conventions related to human and labor rights, environment and good governance, and that the EU monitors this implementation closely.
The central bank data shows that the headline inflation as measured by the year-on-year change in the National Consumer Price Index increased to 6.2% in last December from 4.1% in last November. Meanwhile, the change in the NCPI measured on an annual average basis increased to 3.5% in December 2019 from 3% in November 2019. Headline inflation as measured by the year-on-year change in NCPI increased in last December due to monthly increase of prices of items in the food category, along with the statistical effect of the low base prevailed in December 2018. Food inflation increased substantially to 8.6% in December 2019 from 4% in November 2019, while non-food inflation remained unchanged at 4.2%. The change in the NCPI measured on an annual average basis increased to 3.5% in December last year from 3% in November 2019. Monthly change of NCPI recorded at 1.6% in December 2019, and it was solely due to the price increases observed in the items of the food category caused by adverse weather conditions prevailed during December 2019. Within the food category, prices of vegetables, rice, red onions, coconut and fish recorded increases in December 2019. Meanwhile, prices of items in the non-food category recorded a decrease during the month owing to price decreases of the items in communication, housing, water, electricity, gas and other fuels, health and miscellaneous goods and services subcategories due to downward tax revisions introduced by the government with effect from 1st December 2019. The core inflation, which reflects the underlying inflation in the economy, decreased to 5.2% in December last year from 5.5% in November 2019 on year-on-year basis. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa assured the licensed stockbrokers at Colombo Stock Exchange that the government would prioritize the development of the stock market to improve attracting investment to the country. Prime Minister gave this assurance during a meeting with the members of the Colombo Stockbrokers Association at the Temple Trees last Monday.
Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa had insisted that the prolonged decline seen in the Colombo Stock Exchange over the last 4 years would be reversed by the fresh policies the Finance Minister announced just after the Premier's meeting with the stockbrokers. During discussion, the stockbrokers had emphasized the importance of expediting demutualization of the CSE, an act for which is ready for submission in Parliament, and in return the Prime Minister had promised to table it in Parliament soon. Brokers also urged greater participation of pension funds such as the Employees Provident Fund and the Employees Trust Fund returning to fully fledged investing given the attractiveness and value, thereby boosting the market. Brokers had also emphasized the need to have clear and sound guidelines for pension funds when it comes to selection of stocks to invest to ensure all stakeholder interest. The brokers had also emphasized on the importance of building trust in the market to attract more foreign investment and generate interest in the profitability of the CSE. Prime Minister reiterated that the government stand against privatization but will facilitate the business sector to strengthen the country's economy. Brokers Association President Kosala Gamage along with 15 others attended the meeting. Senior Economic Advisor to Prime Minister Nivad Cabral, Secretary to Prime Minister Gamni Senrat, CEC and CSC officials were also present.
The National Chamber of Commerce in Sri Lanka launched the FromSriLanka.com website aimed at supporting Sri Lankan companies to promote their products and services into the global market.
Sri Lanka is currently best known for its tea, rubber, coconut products and apparel in the global market, while the country has many other unique products that only Sri Lanka can offer, of which most of them are eco-friendly and made by small manufacturers. But there is no viable digital platform to encourage global traders in connecting with the local suppliers in Sri Lanka. Hence, NCC launched FromSriLanka.com website filling this gap, providing an online platform to connect Sri Lankan suppliers and the unique products with the rest of the world.
It's a business-to-business sourcing platform for global buyers to source Sri Lankan products. It's not a e-commerce or a traditional e-commerce platform as we know, which means there is no e-commerce transaction on the platform. It is mainly meant for matchmaking on a B2B basis, business-to-business basis. So that means there is no shopping cart. But we also looked at exporters. One of the challenges, apart from, of course, once they link up companies, they can collaborate and then do the trade the way they want in whichever format each of them prefer. But one of the requirements for exporters are also sending samples. So we've also enabled a process of uploading quotations for sample, which can also be paid for like any other e-commerce transaction. So in whichever way possible, the objective of the platform is to support the Sri Lankan producers and exporters to facilitate global trade.
We will be back after a short break. Welcome back after the break. A latest report by the World Bank says that disasters are annually costing Sri Lanka 50 billion rupees or around 0.4% of gross domestic product in damages, which requires preventive measures to reduce climate risks. The report also identifies Sri Lanka as one of the world's most at risk for climate-related disasters. The World Bank report, titled as Contingent Liabilities from Natural Disasters Sri Lanka, says that on average, Sri Lanka experiences 50 billion rupees or $313 million in annual disaster losses related to housing, infrastructure, agriculture and relief. It highlights that around 32 billion rupees of damages are from floods and cyclones, and high winds cause 11 billion rupees in losses, while droughts and landslides cause 5.2 billion rupees and 1.8 billion rupees in damages respectively. The 58 pages long World Bank report stresses that disasters are costly on human lives as well, with the 2017 floods leading to 313 passing away and the 2018 floods leaving another 13 persons dead. However, the government had managed to provide the thousands who became homeless 1.2 million rupees each to build a house and 0.4 million rupees each to procure land or settle on state-owned land. Global Climate Risk Index has ranked Sri Lanka as the second most affected by extreme weather events over the past 20 years. The report clearly says that disasters disproportionately affect the poor, with 77% of the population in areas highly vulnerable to floods and droughts employed as smallholder farmers. The World Bank estimates disaster-related liabilities for the government on average at 11 billion rupees a year, or 1% of government expenditure. When disasters strike, the government has to halt capital expenditure projects and reallocate funds to respond to emergencies and rehabilitate communities, the World Bank said. As Sri Lanka is facing tight fiscal space, disasters add greater strain to the treasury, the World Bank further said. The Board of Investment of Sri Lanka facilitated another prospective investor to go ahead with a state-of-the-art manufacturing plant for the textile industry. Knitline Apparels will be setting up a high-tech garment factory specialized in the manufacturing of flat knit fashion apparel. Under this agreement signed recently, the company will manufacture knitwear such as pullovers, dresses, sweaters and beanies in Sri Lanka. It was also informed that the company is planning to use modern machinery and technology developed in Japan to manufacture its products. The factory will be situated in Vattala with factory space of 12,000 square feet, enabling employment of an initial workforce of 80 people. Thus, the agreement was signed by Chairman of the Board of Investment Susantha Ratnayaka and Chief Executive Officer of Knitline Apparels Riz Ones. Now we have a subject expert at First Capital Holdings bringing you a detailed review on the stock performances for the past week and a stock forecast for the coming week to assist you in your decision-making activities.
The stock market was on the positive note, sentiment throughout the week with the market closed at a 1.5-week high on Thursday. And turnover levels for the week near to the year daily turnover of 964 million, and foreign selling was mostly centered on the bank and diversify counter. The reason for the market uptick is coming with a corporate tax cut announced in the week beginning. We expect the gradual positive momentum in the market activity on the expect of the company registering a recovering earnings counters, and we expect the market activity level to remain moderate with the foreigners may continue on the selling side. Although the strong buying interest from the local is likely to absorb the impact from the foreign sales.
That's all the news for today, and log into our Facebook page to get the latest news and updates, and send us your comments, views and opinions via our email address and hotline. With that, signing out for this week. See you again on Monday. Until then, take care. Good night.